just going back to the days when I delved into all that, there is a blanket term, Judeo-Christian, never spoken, just the scriptures themselves, right, belong to that, Abrahamic tradition. It's also spoken of as, which is equally revered in 3 major religions of the Occident, including Islam, which is deliberately has been gradually, progressively divorced. Scholars argued and were appalled how the politicization of the essentially ways of how all this has been interpreted tried to push Islam outside of European civilization by doing irreparable damage to both Western civilization per se, to unifying message of all religions, you see? Because then what happened is that the so-called modern day crusaders capitalized on that what has been done by creating alienation. And this alienation is being continuously created now, so as to even, like particularly post 9/11, the policy has been taken, you see, to kind of outcast Islam as alien to values of Western culture. This is utterly and entirely inconsistent with nature, with history, because Islam is a culmination of the unfoldment of the Abrahamic revelations. Every Christian, Judaistic and Islamic scholar agrees on that fact. The clergy may argue among themselves, but within the scholarly understanding, the revelations have this, the Old Testament, New Testament, and the Qu'ran. These are set of revelations. These are completely joined scriptures, and as we know in the Qu'ran, right, where the recitation of the Quran began. How the recitation of the Quran began. Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, was seized by Archangel Jibrail, which is Archangel Gabriel, and was lifted off the ground, and he started to press him very hardly in that lock. This was on, I think, the 40th day of his post, on the 40th day of his penance, which he retreated to do. And he was recite, commanding Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, recite. And he's like, showing the reservations. See, just like Buddha was not really that keen. But Angel Gabriel had a very good grip. So he had him very tight and kept pressing. Recite. Like, he objected 3 times, but then he felt his life force will be squeezed out of him. So and what he recited was the birth of the Quran. So there were these progressive revelations. So Quran consists of 2 parts, as many of you know, right? No? No? Well, internal and the external. One is in Medina, one is in Mecca, composed respectively. The internal and external. See? The eternal law, right, and which is one to adhere, the Sharia, and the esoteric dimension, the tarika. What is it if you know yoga, if you understand this? Obviously, in the state of deep inner absorption, there was this experience of cessation of breath, kumbhaka. And that kumbhaka felt as if being suffocated. But of course, in lieu of cultural, let's say, predispositions and understanding, this was accompanied by this esoteric experience of as Archangel Gabriel. It's a power archetype. We can talk about it, so we can bring this understanding, or rather bridge the misunderstanding between, let's say, deities and various cultures. These are forces of consciousness, or powers of consciousness. All the angels, they served their purposes. They were, from the messenger to the one who executes the will, right? From the one who has this more of kind of peaceful, agreeable demeanor to the one who looks like a warrior completely clad in armor. No? So, but one way or another, absolutely every main figure is present in the Quran. Moses is there. Isa is there as Jesus. Oh, see? So culturally speaking, you can understand the sentiment every Muslim carries, educated Muslim. I'm not talking about fanatics who were indoctrinated, given portions of portion of truth basically is truth perverted. Starting with the interpretation of the term jihad. But what really, if you have a conversation with what feels at the cultural level, you see, it's this dismissal, utter dismissal that we all, myself including as the one who lived long enough in the West, carry towards Islam and Islamic culture, making it alien to Western civilization, when in fact without Islam, there will be no Western civilization. Why that is? Because it is the Muslim scholars who translated the work that was drowned in the Alexandrian library in Alexandria. Drowned, destroyed. All that was written in ancient Greek was destroyed. These are the dark ages. We know very little about. No records left. Language itself was plunged into oblivion. None of the discoveries, none of the glory of the ancients was present. And then suddenly, it survived because it was all translated into Arabic by polyglots, by Muslim scholars. From as far from where I was born, in Uzbekistan, modern-day Uzbekistan, from as far as Bukhara to Isfahan, to all the way to modern-day Spain, where we sit. Not exactly where we're in Mallorca, but, all this was run by Moors, right? The golden age of Islamic civilization. So this work begins to be translated back into European languages, above all else into Italian, which prompted the Renaissance. This is the real reason. But scholars twisted few facts and said, no, they excavated suddenly things in the Roman, what is it called? Palladium? In Rome. Well, where all the excavations, Forum. All the Forum, like excavations, they dug out the sculptures of ancient Greeks, and that spurred the Renaissance. It's the translation of the works of the ancient Greek philosophers above all else. Scientists. All this. In other words, suddenly this spurred the whole movement, the whole, what we speak today as a Renaissance. You see? So Islam was always part of the formation and evolution of Western European culture. But progressively, it somehow began to serve geopolitical agendas, and the emphasis was constantly made into who fought for the Jerusalem. So the emphasis is still on the Crusades and the Ottomans and the battles, not in constant and complete cross-pollination within its own culture, because it's not even via Silk Route bringing knowledge from India, China, into the Western soil. Islam is here, Middle East. So that's why James Joyce's character says, history is a nightmare from which I want to awake, or from which I'm trying to awake, as one of his characters declared. History is a nightmare from which I'm trying to awake. And now double it by, manipulation of history.